started journaling a few months ago. Do I still do it? Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on my channel, where today I will be talking to you about reading and journaling and if I've kept up with journaling. So for those of you who don't know, a few months ago, around July or August time, I posted a video where I was taking part in a challenge, and it was a journal / diary entry challenge where you would journal every single day and every single night for 1 week straight. And I did that and it was really good. It was very emotionally liberating and creatively indulging. Honestly, I would recommend it to anyone just to try once in their lives at least, even if they don't stick with journaling, just to kind of get into it and just to say that they've experienced it, because it was a really interesting experience. So if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend trying it. So that was July / August. So do I still journal? Short answer is yes I do, else we wouldn't be here in this video right now. But no, I don't journal in the sense of that video. So I don't journal every day and every night, because one, that's unrealistic for me. I wouldn't personally want to do that, and two, I didn't find there was too many differences in my morning entries compared to my evening entries, at least not enough to remit any benefits that I was getting from it. And to be honest, I didn't really see any benefits that I was gathering from writing a double entry every single day. So since that video was uploaded, I just dropped double entries altogether. I mean, sure, in a few years time it would be cool to read my morning entries and then my evening entries, but there was no benefits for me right now from that, so the system just didn't work for me personally. And functionally, for the whole seeing it in a few years thing, one daily entry performs the same task with half the work. So yeah, I dropped the double entry as soon as that video was uploaded. Now, to continue with this video, I feel like it would be useful and interesting to show you what became of that exact journal from that video, and kind of to show you what I used it for after that video and where it's ended up now. So after that challenge, Draco, my journal, I'll explain the whole naming things at a later point in this video, but Draco became my kind of commonplace general thoughts dump kind of journal. I wouldn't write daily entries, I wouldn't even write weekly entries. I would kind of use it as in key milestone or key events, kind of for documenting significant events, for traveling, for getting things off my chest, just kind of for anything that I wanted to say, I would write it in here. So for example, not long after that video was posted, I took this exact journal to my trip to Tunisia for 2 weeks, and I used it as a travel journal. And for that particular trip, I journaled in it every single day, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, and it made sense for that particular trip. I wanted to keep track of everything I was doing for that particular trip, so I journaled every single day. And that was a few months ago. Then radio silence, there was nothing in it since, until last week, where I documented my first ice hockey game of the season. So again, I'm just documenting significant events or anything that I really just want to put into this journal. There's no real structure or no real kind of time restrictions on it. I'll get into the whole naming a journal thing because I feel like it makes sense for this portion of the video. So typically from the videos I've seen and continue to see here on YouTube, people write their name and the year the journal they're completing is. So for example, I started this journal in 2022, so I'd write my name 2022 or my name 2022 to 2023 because I'm continuing this journal on. And you'd write it either at the top of the book or on the side of the book, but I didn't do that. So as you can see here, this journal is titled specifically Draco's Divulgences, and on either side, top and bottom, there is no year, there is no kind of time bound thing on here, and I did that deliberately. So I haven't put a specific year on my journal because I don't want it to be time bound, and I'll explain more on that. I just like the freedom and the feeling of being untethered that comes with an unstructured journal. I just like the idea that using this as a general kind of mind dump is just that. It's a commonplace, it's a mind dump, it's just that, nothing more, nothing less. It's just an abyss of thoughts and random happenings that are just there, where date plays no real significant role in what's happening. Obviously, I still write the dates at the top of my entries, but it doesn't really play a significant role other than seeing where I was in my life at that point. I also like that I can write an entry tomorrow and come back 5 years later and write a new entry right next to it, and it wouldn't matter because it's not time bound. And sometimes life just needs that. It just needs that unstructured chaoticism and just that unstructured mind vomit. It's essentially my brain on paper. That's what this journal is, structured and put together on the outside, and just an imperfectly perfect scaffold of thoughts and feelings here, there and everywhere on the inside. It's just laid out in the open or out in the book, and it's just chaotic perfectness on the inside. So that's Draco, my general mind dump, my kind of vomit of thoughts and feelings. But I don't write in this regularly, but I did say I journal regularly at the start of this video because I have continued journaling. So if I don't journal in Draco regularly, where do I do it? Now, you've all met this journal before. This journal was featured in a cameo at the end of that journal challenge that I was talking about at the start of the video, because I said I was going to continue journaling, so there was a slight spoiler in that video. But yeah, this is a separate journal to Draco, even though Draco's not finished, but I will explain what I'm using this for. So, why the separation? This is Leo, my clinical placement journal. So I write in this journal almost every single day and have been doing that since September when I started my placement, and it's kind of my own reflective summary of the things I see, the lessons I've learned, and anything else I kind of just want to document. I write it in daily entries in this, and I'm on placement 4 days a week, so 4 days out of the week I'm writing in this every single day while I'm on placement. So it's kind of just the things I've seen, the lessons I've learned, kind of all the feelings about placement or anything that happens during placement. It all goes in here and I reflect on it. So it first started out like a log where I document what I'd see, the things I do in placement, just so I could see in the future kind of what my first clinical experience was like and how I felt about it. Then it changed into a reflective summary. So it turned into active reflections. I reflect on my feelings, I reflect on my thoughts, kind of just anything positive or negative about placement, how I've learned the skills and how I apply the skills. I kind of just write and reflect on everything all within one entry. So I write in this journal either during my breaks at work or at the end of work, so towards the end of the day, or sometimes after work if I'm catching up. And I aim for perfection, so I aim to try and write every single day that I'm on placement. But you know, life happens. Sometimes you miss one entry, or you miss a few weeks or a few days, and that's okay. I just catch up after. And something I've noticed about that is that when I go back to catch up, I only remember the significant details or the significant things that happened. So it's really interesting to see what my brain considers as a significant event compared to something that's, you know, unimportant or kind of just verbal waffle. And it's really interesting to see when I'm catching up what I thought was significant at the time, and then as I'm writing about it now, if I've forgotten, it clearly wasn't so important. So it's kind of fun to do that sometimes, to see like, oh, a problem may have been really big for me a week ago, but as I'm writing it now, it doesn't seem quite so big or quite so menacing anymore. So that's just a unique thing that I noticed while I was catching up, because there have been times where I've kind of missed out a week and then have to rewrite the whole week again. But yeah, that's just been something that I've noticed while I'm catching up, and I thought it was really interesting, so I wanted to share that. So yeah, I document my entries in here either during or after work, and that is my physical entries that I write, and then I input all the kind of lessons and skills I've learned into a Notion database, which I'm sure I'm flagging up on the screen if I consider doing that. I might not, but it's on the screen if it's here. That's kind of where I formulate the clinical and psychological related skills that I'm taking away and reflecting on in my journal. So for example, if I learned what a formulation was, or if I was creating my own formulation, I'd write about how I did that, who I learned it from, how I learned it, and if I applied it, and that would kind of be my reflection on those skills in my database. So I'd write those kind of 3 or 4 bullet points about how I learnt it, how I've applied it, and kind of my own take on what it was. And I do that so that in futures, when it comes to interviews or general applications, I have all of my kind of clinically related skills all in one place, and everything that I've learned from this placement that is related to applications and things like that, all in one place. And it's all there, so I know what I did, when I did it, how I did it, what I took away from it, and kind of the skills I've learned and developed from that specific experience. And it's all anecdotal evidence, it's my own personal accounts, and it's all been reflected on, which is really good, because that is what kind of clinical professionals or clinically related jobs are looking for. So if you guys are kind of in a similar experience or similar situation right now, do all your reflections beforehand and document it so that you have it all in one place. It's the best thing I've done so far, and I'm going to keep doing that even for university or future experiences. Just keep doing that, because it is the best thing you can do when it comes to applying to anywhere. Now I have one more journal which I started, in fact, very recently, less than a week ago. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Silas the Stoic. Oh, also, I don't know if I mentioned the name of this journal. This is Leo, my placement journal, and the journal title is called Letters to Leo. I just realized I didn't mention the name before. But yeah, this is Silas the Stoic, and it's a very small journal. It's an A6 notebook. Now, I've never really been a big reader. Even as a child, when I was younger, I was never a reader. I was more of a writer than a reader, and I still consider myself that now. I'm definitely more of a writer than a reader. And I kind of just struggled finding books that would fully get me immersed into the story, and when I did, there weren't that many, so I didn't really read too much because it was so hard to get engrossed in a book, and the books that I kind of did get engrossed in, I would either finish it and not read it again, or there just wasn't a lot available. However, recently I've been getting into more lifestyle oriented philosophical books, which I know is a weird genre, but I've kind of really taken a liking to it and I find them really interesting, so that's what I've been reading recently. Currently I've been specifically getting into Stoicism and Greek philosophy in general, because that's kind of what I was drawn to when I was reading these books, and I'm really kind of engrossed in it at the moment. Now, for those of you who don't know, Stoicism is a kind of philosophical oriented lifestyle. It's rooted in ancient Greek philosophy. Now, the main idea of Stoicism is to kind of increase positive emotions, reduce negative emotions, and allow yourself to hone in on virtues of character and kind of just strengthen yourself. And it's very kind of personality, virtues, hard work oriented, and I really like that. And the Stoic mindset, I'm actually going to read it because I wrote it in my little journal. The Stoic mindset is a mindset based on a set of observations about how the mind and the world works. Your thoughts and beliefs create the world you inhabit, so you should take responsibility for your mind. And I really like that. I really kind of resonate with the whole, you can't kind of do things, you can't really get lost in a piece of work or produce your best piece of work if nothing is going well up here. You know, you need to be at least somewhat structurally sound up here to produce the best work possible. And I kind of saw myself gravitated more towards Stoicism and the Stoic mindset, and I found myself getting more into Stoicism related books and Greek philosophy related books. So yeah, that's kind of what I found myself reading as of recently. Now, also, please don't take what I say for law. This is kind of just my own personal takeaways from what I've been seeing and reading the last couple of weeks. This is kind of my own personal accounts and personal opinions, and my own perspective developed from what I've seen and heard. Speaking of seeing and hearing, my current reads as of right now is Ego is the Enemy. I picked this up this week. I've nearly finished it. It's really good. It's by Ryan Holiday, and it is one of my favorite books so far. I haven't put it down since I've gotten it, and it is one of those books I mentioned earlier where I've just been immersed in it and I'm really interested in it. So after I finish this, I will start Discipline is Destiny, also by Ryan Holiday. I really like his style of writing. It's really easy to follow, and it's kind of an informal but lesson giving conversation, and I really like that unique style of writing, so I'll be moving on to this. However, simultaneously, while reading Ego is the Enemy, I'm also reading Cracking Philosophy. I didn't buy this book anywhere. These two were from Amazon. I was awarded this book when I was 15 for an award that I got. Funny story with that award. So It was called the Governor's Award. Usually there is one award given to a pupil within each year group every single year, and I was the first person to encourage the second award to be given, so I was awarded the second award. Someone had already been awarded the Governor's Award for that year, and then I got awarded the second one, which never happened before. I don't know if it's happened since, but I know I was the first one to get it up to that point. And this was the award they gave me. So they gave me the Governor's Award certificate, and they also awarded me this book on philosophy. And I was 15 at the time. What 15-year-old wants to read philosophy? I haven't touched it up until now. So I've kind of just been getting into both of these because this is a fresh read for me too, even though it's been on the shelf for 5 years. I haven't read it, so it's been really nice to kind of look at it with a fresh set of eyes now that I am kind of interested in philosophy. Yeah, I have it right there. I got it in year 10. But I have been reading those two, and they are very, very interesting to me, and I definitely recommend both of those books. Coming back to kind of Stoicism and Greek philosophy in general, the Stoic mindset has really resonated with me in a way, kind of putting your best into everything, making the most of the opportunities you have, creating opportunities that you don't have, and kind of balancing emotions, making the most of the positives, trying to reduce the negatives as much as you can. It's something that really resonates with me. And again, it's all rooted in mindset and hard work. Nothing in life worth having ever comes easy, and strengthening yourself, your mindset, your virtues of character is just as important, if not parallel, to hard work and performance, which I really appreciated when I was reading those books. So how does that relate to journaling? Because again, this is a journaling video. So how does reading relate to it? So when getting into reading, I didn't want to forget the lessons I was gaining from those books, especially when they're lifestyle oriented books. I didn't want to kind of read them once and put them down and just lose the lessons forever. I wanted to actively implement them into my life. So generally speaking, when I read, I write with a highlighter or a pen in hand. Yes, I am one of those sociopaths that highlight and write their books. I mean, I bought these books, I'm not renting or borrowing them, they are mine to keep. I just go through with a highlighter and highlight my favorite quotes or underline them or do whatever, and kind of just highlight my favorite quotes or highlight specific lessons that I like, or just kind of things that pop out and stick to me. So for example, I've just highlighted one part of a sentence here, and it says, "Ruled by our emotions," which I really liked because a lot of people are specifically ruled by their emotions when they shouldn't be, and ego is the enemy teaches you about kind of keeping everything in check and not taking your inside self too seriously, and also not to let pride get in the way. But yeah, so I do take my highlighter and kind of go ham in the books because they're there to be used. Books aren't a pretty centerpiece on a coffee table, they're a physical learning material. Even fiction books, you know, they teach you about creative writing and kind of imagination and things like that, and inspiration. So they're there to be used. So I don't care about writing in the books, I don't care about breaking the books. I do care about breaking the spines, but it inevitably happens. But yeah, I just kind of go through, highlight, post-it notes, do whatever with my books. So I was just doing my thing, highlighting, going through, seeing what quotes I liked, and it got me thinking back to during English, during GCSE's time, when we would have our anthologies or we would have our novels, and we would kind of go through and highlight key quotes like this, and we would analytically dissect them either directly in the anthology or the novel, or we would write them out in a separate book and just start branching off of them and annotating them like that. And I thought that was a really cool idea, and I wanted to do something similar like that, just to keep working and to keep my brain active, and just as a way for me to kind of implement the lessons I've learned in my daily life, and to kind of continue to learn about whatever the lesson was that I was trying to remember. So with that being said, here is my reading journal that I showed you guys earlier, Silas the Stoic. And I kind of just put the key quotes or key lessons or anything that I've taken away from reading, blogs, books, email newsletters, any quotes or lessons. I just write it in here, and I kind of analytically dissect it as I would, because I was kind of just going through highlighting my books and mentally dissecting them in my head, but you know, you forget that after a little while. It doesn't really sink in as much as it sinks in physically writing it out and having the lessons kind of laid out to you. So I use my reading journal to physically dissect them and kind of have a space with all my favorite quotes from whichever books I read in one specific place. And also kind of analytically dissecting quotes or lessons that you get from books allows you to see the world and kind of just see that specific quote through different perspectives, because what we were taught when we were dissecting our quotes in our English GCSEs is to look at them from a different perspective. So for example, if you're looking at a quote from Lady Macbeth in the position of a lady in power, you would look at it completely different to someone at that time in the Jacobean era or the Elizabethan era or whenever it was written. It was years ago. As a male in power, you would kind of get two different perspectives, two different meanings of that quote. So it allows you to kind of analytically dissect something from multiple different perspectives and kind of find new meanings for different quotes, which I really enjoyed. Okay, finally, I'll get into the names of my journals, how I named them, why I named them, the kind of system and general concept around it. And I left this segment of the video last because personally it is the most important part to me about having a journal, and I'll elaborate more on that. So this is Draco, as you guys saw earlier and from my previous video. The journal title is called Draco's Divulgences. Draco, not because of Draco Malfoy, for God's sake, but I just like the name Draco. It kind of matched the whole dark academia dragon related theme, and I remember the sniper rifle from Black Ops 1, which was a game that I really got into. It was one of the first games I started playing. It was called the Dracon, and I remember thinking at the time when I first saw that it's a really cool kind of dragony name, so I thought that that would be really cool to have with this, so I named it Draco with a K. Now, divulgences, for those of you who don't know, are the kind of private thoughts and vulnerabilities you disclose to someone, or in my case, into something. Now, in my head, I am writing all my thoughts and vulnerabilities to my future self or some other form of myself. I'm kind of disclosing anything and everything out into the open. So hence Draco's Divulgences, because I'm venting about my thoughts and feelings and anything I'm experiencing right now to my future self. And also alliteration is a bonus, which you'll start to notice the trend with these books. Now this is Leo. The journal is titled Letters to Leo. And I feel like for this journal in particular, I should explain how I came about acquiring this specific journal. So at the time when I was considering to get a journal for clinical placement, so this is before I had the journal, I just had the idea, I was rewatching Netflix's Dive Club for the second time, and for those of you who haven't seen it, I highly recommend. It is a great show, and within the show there is a world-renowned treasure hunter who keeps really detailed journal entries of all the adventures he goes on and kind of the things he sees, and his name was Leo. And he was a sailor, a diver, a treasure hunter, just an adventurer in every sense of the word. And I really liked that, and I really liked how he logged all of his adventures in the journal. Hence my nautical themed journal. It's got a compass on it, and it's got anchors and a boat steering wheel. I know there's a specific name for it, but I forgot. And hence why it's called Leo. And again, Leo is a pseudonym for my future self, and I like to think of it in a way that I've gone away on my clinical placement and I'm kind of writing letters to my future self, letters to Leo, about my adventures on clinical placement, and kind of writing postcards or letters back to my future self, back to the future. Hence the name Letters to Leo. Okay, last but certainly not least, Silas the Stoic. Now, I will admit, I originally had no intent of naming this book, and I wasn't planning to either. I only named it because my other journals had names, and I guess it was only fitting that this reading journal also had a name. So I wanted a Greek name because Stoicism is rooted in ancient Greek philosophy, and the books I'm currently reading are rooted in Greek philosophy. So I wanted a Greek name to kind of tie it all together. So I chose the name Silas because I've always loved the name Silas. It's a really cool name, and I was thinking about how to tie it to my reading journal in a way that was coherent and that made sense. So I was thinking about the meaning, and Silas means of the forest. So I was thinking forest, trees. I guess it relates to journal, like writing on paper. Then I thought to myself, alliteration, Silas the Stoic. But even though it's not a Stoicism specific journal, I just thought it was too perfect. It clicked perfectly well. Silas the Stoic. And I just thought, you know, that's the name, it's perfect, and so it stuck. And again, alliteration is always a bonus, so Silas the Stoic is here to stay. Now, I mentioned earlier at the start of the video, I have my specific reasons for not writing my own name on the side of my journals. I write a pseudonym, or I just name my journals a specific title instead. And I do have my justifications for that. The reason is I like the dissociation. I like the anonymity that comes with a different name, a totally fictional entity, and the ability to separate them from myself. And these journals are personal records of my vulnerabilities, my thoughts, my feelings, my beliefs, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to write about those even to myself without that dissociation, even though it is to myself in a private notebook. I just feel like there would be that barrier, and I wouldn't be able to get over that to fully write freely and and to fully kind of get into what I'm writing. It would just be unauthentic, and I didn't want that. The veil of vulnerability completely disintegrates when you're writing to a different name. It's a completely new other person, even when in reality you know you're writing to yourself. Like, I'm not stupid. I know Leo or Draco or Silas is me in the future. I know that, but it kind of just takes away that barrier, that kind of last hurdle for you to write completely freely with no restrictions, no resistance, and I really needed that. You're, in a sense, having a conversation, you're sharing lessons, you're venting about thoughts, your feelings, you're just sharing anything and everything. You're essentially gossiping about yourself to yourself. It's a free-flowing conversation in a weird sense. And yes, it's not an exchange in the sense that a real conversation is, where you would say something and you'd get feedback from it, or you would say something and something else would branch off of it from the other person talking. But there's beauty in that too. You're freely venting with no resistance. You're just venting and talking and getting everything out with no interruptions, which sometimes people like myself need. I just like having that separation from myself, because if I was writing Dear Me or something in a sense like that, it just adds a whole other layer to it that I don't think I could prevail through. It would kind of just misconstrue what I'm trying to write, and when I'm writing to a pseudonym, it's, in a sense, to me at least, is like writing to another person, and it kind of takes away that veil of vulnerability that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, it just makes it easier to disclose anything and everything, because you're gossiping, in a sense, about yourself to yourself. And anyone who knows anything knows that gossiping is the easiest form of conversation. You can gossip with a total stranger and it just feels like a free-flowing conversation. So to have that in a sense of writing, and when you're venting and you just want to get anything and everything out there but you struggle to do that, gossiping, in a sense, gossiping is a really easy way to do that when you know you're writing to someone else instead of just freely talking to yourself. Because if I was doing this, if I had to verbally announce my kind of thoughts, feelings, struggles, I wouldn't be able to do that. But if I'm kind of talking through it with someone else, like a close friend, or in this case a pseudonym, then it kind of takes away the resistance. You can just freely get into it, and I really needed that from a journal. So that's where I'm at. I started the year, it was August, with one journal, and I am now ending the year with 3 journals. So to answer the question of this video, will I continue to keep journaling? Yes I will. And to be honest, I don't think I'll ever stop, at least not for long. Okay, that is all from me for this video, guys. It is slightly different. I also wanted to mention I'm using a new camera. I got this months ago, but I just couldn't configure it, and I'm still trying to configure it now. I'm not using the stock camera mic. I'm using my lavalier mic that's connected to my phone, so I'm gonna sync it up. But hopefully the upgrades are slowly coming through. But yeah, I'm using a completely different camera and I can't see myself, and it's really weird because I don't know if anything's in focus, but it's a learning curve. But yeah, that has been this video. that has been my kind of lowdown of what I'm doing journaling wise and how I'm getting into reading and all things considered, like just lifestyle in general. I think that's it. I think I covered a lot. This is quite a long video, a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I guess that's just how it goes around here. I'm kind of filming longer videos than random short videos. That's all. I just wanted to thank you guys for an amazing year so far. I don't think I'll film another video that will be posted until after the new year, so thank you for this last year. You guys have really been showing the support, especially with my clinical placement series and my university series from last year and this year. You guys have been really amazing and I really appreciate that. I don't know why you guys stick around to watch me. I really do appreciate that. Thank you for taking precious time out of your day that you'll never get back to spend with me. There is really something beautiful about that. We're kind of all going through this together, and I find it really sweet that you would take time out of your day to watch me, because I certainly wouldn't. I don't know why you guys are here. With all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you have a great morning, evening or night, and happy early new year. Goodbye. Right, time to sync the microphones. Okay.